Hello everyone, it's Rocio, Community Manager with Life by You, and this week we want to walk you through some editors. We have a lot of tools and it's time to get started looking through some of them. So let's go ahead and click Create. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the loading screen in. We're going to sit through this because I think Rod had a really good idea to show you how long these loading screens actually are. So this is unlike the game itself in that you're not loading into a whole open world. Here you're just loading into the tools and the mods that you've created. I know some of you all timed the loading screen last time, so you'll be happy to know this one was around 23 seconds. So here you can see there are already a lot of available creations. This includes a lot I made a while back, as well as all of the built-in stuff to Life by You. Before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and make a new mod here because I don't want to ruin what's already in the game. In order to create a new mod, you just click the green plus at the top, and there it populates a new mod, which you can rename. So I'm going to go ahead and name this For Our Community. So now that I have this mod project, I can go ahead and add something to it. I can go here, and as you can see, there's a bunch of stuff that I can change. I'm just going to go ahead and give you a second to take a look at this screen. I know there's a lot to take in, but I think today I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do skills and traits. Before we start off with some examples, let me just remind you all the usual community manager disclaimer. A lot of this is in progress. We're still modifying and fine-tuning, so things are subject to change. Going into skills, you can see all of the skills that are already built into the game. And of course, you can add your own skills, and that's why we have these filters. You can filter between all mods, the current mod, and you can search for whichever skill you're looking for in the event that you have a bunch modded in. Now for the basics of a skill. So here you have the display name. This one's pretty self-explanatory. It's what you see in game. You have a description where you can describe what the skill actually will do in game. And then from there you can exclude it from randomization. So for example, you don't want your randomly generated people to have knitting. You can make sure that it's not included. And of course you can add a level up message, so basically whatever pops up when you level up in that skill. You can also add scripts to your level up, so basically if you want something to trigger once somebody levels up in that skill. I'll make a random skill at the end of this video, but let's go ahead and move on to traits because there's a lot more there and I want to get started. Another quick community manager disclaimer, we will be walking you through all of these traits in videos, like through actual gameplay, but for this video, we're just going to show you what it looks like when you're actually in the editor. As you might be able to tell from the naming convention here, there are tons of different types of traits. That includes personality traits, conditions, emotions, needs, relationships, and object states. So we're not going through all of them right now. We'll cover them in future videos, but I did want to let you know because all of them kind of serve different functions in game. Before we get too far here, you can see that I can't edit these because they are built in. We're in the built-in section, and that's basically so that if you add mods and you make all these edits, you still have the base game to go back to, just in case. So let's go back to our community mod project, and from there I'm going to go to traits. Now that we're here, I'm going to go ahead and click that green plus, and you can see that I have added a new trait. I'll admit I probably should have asked you all what you wanted to see for this video, but we're going to go ahead and just make a random trait. Let's name this trait Cozy. I'm going to go for that like comfortable and cozy feeling. Let me go ahead and write a description for this cozy feeling. I'm thinking very like with a cup of tea and a book next to a fireplace, trying to evoke that feeling. Like near a fireplace, wearing comfy socks, or post-bath, like that kind of like warmth inside. So like I talked about earlier, traits can be a number of things. They can be temporary states. So I'm kind of thinking that cozy is a temporary state similar to having a nightmare or, you know, one of the needs being met. So that's the description for the trait of cozy. Now for the effect, I think it's going to make my person just feel really good. I'll figure out how to make that happen, but I think, you know, basically after they take steps towards making it a nice environment and treating themselves, I think that's when this effect will take place. Traits can also affect conversation. So if I want somebody who's cozy to, you know, have a different disposition or change the way that they have conversations, I can go ahead and click this and it can let you know when someone's cozy. And these two toggles are basically to let you know in your timeline when this condition is added or removed. So I'm going to go ahead and toggle those on. So that was all under the display of the trait. Now let's go ahead and move on to the function. So this is kind of where you can be a little bit more fun. At the top, you can add scripts for what you would like to happen when the condition is added, removed, or renewed. And then you can add an emotion to the trait. Under emotion, you can add an icon, adjust the emoji that corresponds to it, change its color, and adjust its priority. For cozy, I'm not going to be adding any emotion, but I will be timing this because I don't think you stay cozy forever. I'm going to go ahead and add a duration here. And I don't plan on making this non-renewable or giving it random extensions. I also won't be adding any scripts for this video. But like I mentioned, these scripts can basically adjust someone's behavior when you add the trait, on renewing the trait, or when you remove the trait. I'll try to show you an example of this before the end of the video from one of our actual designers. We'll also have that designer, shout out Lauren, write a blog post on this so that she can go into interaction, script wrappers, and more of this in depth. Here at the bottom, you can see appealing object tags and unappealing object tags. So basically any item that has those tags will either be appealing or unappealing depending on where you put it. You can see the tags are pretty varied and you can add your own tags, which may change depending on which objects you add to the game yourself. For the sake of cozy, I know cozy can mean different things to different people, but let's go ahead and start with the appealing object tags. And I think plants are definitely something that I find cozy. Some art can be really cozy, like good for the soul. I also am personally a big fan of warm, clean laundry. That feels very cozy to me. And I can't forget bathtub. Let's add one more. I think... Oh, yoga. Yoga's a good one. I think you can relax with that. There it is. Now we should move on to the unappealing object tags. I think we should do the opposite of clean laundry, so dirty laundry. And I don't know. Let's just add one more. I think metal is pretty uncozy. Should I add more? I think that's fine. Let's move on. So that was it for the function tab. Let's move on to the needs tab just so I can show you. So in needs, you can associate your trait with a need. So you can have a primary need and a secondary need. I don't think I'm going to associate cozy with any needs. I think it's fine the way it is. Let me just show you what it looks like. So once you give a need, you can have it affect the natural rate of losing that need as well as the satisfaction rate of earning that need back. You can also offset the urgency state, so basically at what point will you reach certain thresholds. Moving on to organization, here you can apply tags. So some of these tags are life stages, so you can say this is an adult trait. A good example of this was when Rod was talking about drunk and drinking. That behavior is tagged for adults and elders. Another thing you can do here is you can add tags for the sake of trying to organize. So for example, if you're saying this is an attitude or this is a personality trait, you can go ahead and add those tags here so that it's easier to reference later. As you see in the filters, you can search by tags. Let's remove all of that and just keep it simple for cozy. Moving on, we have inherited traits, suppressed traits, supporting and reciprocal traits, as well as opposing traits. So I will definitely leave this one for Lauren to explain later, but for the sake of example, let's go ahead and add awkward as an opposing trait to cozy, because you're probably not feeling too cozy if you're awkward. And lastly, the references tab. This basically tells you where might this trait be referenced elsewhere in the game. Right now, it's not applicable to cozy. I just added it. I'll leave it for now. And as promised, let me show you an example of a trait that's already been implemented. Here I've gone ahead and filtered by conditional traits, and I've picked hungover as our example today. So I've gone to the function tab because I think this is where it gets interesting. If I want to edit this, I have to override it because it is one of the built-in traits. But now that we're in function, you can change the emotion that it elicits. Here it's like a little sweaty, uncomfortable emoji, as well as the duration. So here you can see that it's 720 minutes of being hungover. And when you're hungover, your bed and your chairs are very appealing, but fitness is not. So you can kind of see where all of these tags come into play. Now let's look at the script. Here on add, you can see that you get a notification to let you know that your human has become hungover. And from there, it goes ahead and updates their emotion. Basically telling you as soon as you become hungover, you're going to feel bad. And when you make changes in the editor, you can use the arrows to go backward or forward, or use the revert. And of course, you can add more commands. This is already built in, but let's say instead of this human emotion, I would rather, add a human interaction. In this case, I would just place it onto the board, essentially, and just change the flow. So move it from human emotion update to the human interaction you want to add. And let's close that and keep looking. Under display, it has the basics here. It's a temporary condition, so it doesn't have a lot here. Under needs, you can see that it affects both the rest and the fun needs. Under organization, you can see that it's restricted to adults, elders. It's a conditional trait. It will be in early access, and it's a human trait. And that's it for our example of hungover. Let's close it out with a quick skill example like I mentioned earlier. Let me just look through some of the existing skills for some inspiration. We have a bunch of really fun ones, so let's see if I can add or, expand upon some of them. I like all the writing ones. Maybe I'll add another writing one. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do, actually. So I'm gonna go ahead and click the little green plus sign, and now I have a new skill. Under display name, I'm just gonna type in writing parentheses what it is, like the other ones. Speaking of the other ones, let's go ahead and use those descriptions as a basis for this one. A quick copy paste. And replacing mystery with fan fiction. And let's be a little bit more realistic with the description, unfortunately. And for now, I'm just going to leave the rest of this at the default. Now I can plug this skill into other things, such as objects and events. All that's left to do is make sure that it's named properly, and that's how you add a skill. Thank you all for joining us. We can't wait to show you some more of the editors in coming videos, so stay tuned and hope you have a good weekend.